So I had this sort of revelation tonight. And I think the primary thing about the concept of doing this is, man, you just can't tell people some stories about your childhood because they're too goddamn sensitive. I mean, my grandmother, and remember, we lived, by the time I got there, it was an all black neighborhood. You know, we had our 7 acres, but everybody else was black for a mile or two. And so my grandmother used to joke about it. And she would say, Lee, we're surrounded by niggers. Let's make some chocolate chip cookies and take them over there. Of course, Grandma was some part Indian, I forget what it was, Native American. And so there wasn't a racial bone in her body. And we had plenty of friends of all various shades, you know, throughout my lifetime. But she she had this this sense of humor that would challenge people. And I find that funny because still today, and we're talking, I think it was probably mid 60s, you know, and then again in the, I don't know, like 72, 73, when I lived out there for a couple more years on the plantation, our 7 acre compound. She'd always joke, man, the niggers are surrounding us. Hey, you want to go take them some chocolate chip cookies? So I get my sense of humor from her. But goddamn, people are so sensitive. Now, I mean, of course, they've gotten more sensitive, you know, with all this recent racist, racist, racist. You like white dogs? Racist. We actually had a white German Shepherd when I was a kid. Can you imagine if we had the same environment now? People would be calling me a racist because I had a white German Shepherd. Mm. But anyway, revelation. And I think anybody of our age can appreciate this, you know. Thought to myself, and I'm just going to read it as I wrote it down originally, and then I'll probably ad-lib a lot, but just want to get down the original thoughts here. I didn't put a lot of effort in this. I just fucking said it and recorded it. But so anyway, boy, I wish I had lived in a different, an older time. Then I realized that I am so old, I have lived in an older time. How's that? You know, when we were kids, we're thinking, yeah, I wish I'd lived in a time when men were men and horses were horses and a lot of stuff went on the range. Not none of that Brokeback Mountain shit, but some other stuff. Well, anyway, I guess it was 1963. 1960, now, you know, plus or minus a little bit. And we were living in this house, this, you know, cheap old clapboard house that was basically up a hill. Our driveway rose about, I don't know, 50 feet or something to get up to the flat part of the driveway and get to the house. And so my mom would, in the morning, she'd throw me in the car and I would either be going to preschool or I would be going to grandma's house to hang out with the niggers. Oh boy, my best friend Eddie. We dug a hole under the fence so we could hang out with each other. We had different melanin contents, so it wasn't entirely uncontroversial back then. So, in 1963 or whatever it was. But anyway, so one morning, my mom put me in the car. 36 Chevrolet Coupe. And she realized she had forgotten something, maybe her purse. I don't know what women forget, I'm not a woman, so I don't know what they need. But she'd forgotten something in the house. So, and here's the point of these little tiny tidbits of life stories. I mean, I'm not sure these kids these days get anything, other than video games and whatever the fuck they get. I don't know. But anyway, back before there were televisions, basically, none of us ever watched televisions. We never spent more than a couple minutes in the house every day. We were always out doing something. But anyway, so she put me in the car. Then she went in to get whatever it was she forgot. And me, being the ingenious, curious young person I was, I managed to take the parking brake off and take the car out of gear. So the car, of course, like I said, that part of the driveway is relatively flat, but it's not that flat. And then we got the other part of the driveway that's just like zoom. So the car started rolling backwards. And, I'm 4. I think I was 4. And I'm just like, we're moving. Yeah, we're moving. And I see my mom come running out the front door. Oh! But the car, it rolls back down the driveway, across the street. Luckily, we lived on a very quiet street. Didn't kill any kids. Didn't even knock out any of the old people who walked their dogs. That would have been the easiest thing to do. I didn't like some of those old people. I wouldn't have been sad about that if that had happened. But so we rolled across the street, and the car slammed into the tree across the street. Thank goodness there was a tree there, because that car surely would have rolled right through the house across the street. That's how steep our driveway was. Oh boy, laugh out loud, huh? Funny thing is, my dad was there too. He was loading up the truck to go to work, and so there was no punishment. He basically said, "Why'd you leave him in the car by himself?" And so there were no seatbelts back then, right? I don't remember when we first got seatbelts, but I think I put my first one on sometime in 2020. But so from then on, my mom would duct tape me into the seat if she had to go do something. So I wouldn't do stupid shit. Yeah. So I'm exaggerating. We have so many great stories from our childhood that we only have to exaggerate a little bit. And people don't even realize duct tape didn't exist back then. So it would have been, like plumber's tape or electrical tape or, shackles and chains and stuff, whatever they do to kids back then. So, but that never happened again, because that scared the hell out of me. So anyway, What were our lives? Motorcycles and apple pie, stealing jars of chocolate milk off the neighbors' porches. And where we lived behind this small mountain. It was actually called Little Mountain. And the rise in elevation from our house to the top of Little Mountain was, somewhere between 1,500 and 2,000 feet. Yeah. And my brother and I, my older brother and I, younger brother wasn't a runner. He was too short. He was only like 3 feet tall when we were growing up. He eventually grew up. Now he's normal. But yeah, my older brother and I, we once raced to the top of the mountain behind our house. It was literally like a 100-yard walk to get to the foot of the mountain. And we did this so we could go howl at the moon at midnight. 1,500, 2,000 foot climb. I don't know. But we would, brothers, you got to imagine the competition factor here. And this is a dirt road, rocky dirt road, not well maintained. And we're huffing and puffing up this thing. And it takes a while. I forget how long it takes. Might be up to half an hour. I forget. But when we got to the top of the mountain, the funny thing is, that moon had not gone down, and we could still howl at the moon, which was our primary purpose. First one to howl at the moon gets free McDonald's that day. Of course, to this day, he will still deny that I howled better. He just couldn't handle the truth. So aside from all that, the other little things that made those times we grew up in better: horseshoes and picking tomatoes, getting slobbered on by the bulldogs that my grandparents raised in the kennels. Me and both brothers, younger and older, we would get into those kennels and play with those bulldogs. Those slobbering motherfuckers. I don't know if you've ever been around a bulldog, but it's basically like, a leaking faucet of, I don't know, think of something horrible. But it's not like water. It's not like oil. But, ooh, you get it on you, you're going to take a shower. And they're pretty friendly dogs, actually. I mean, I've never met a vicious bulldog. Never. And my grandparents raised them. But I'll tell you what, they do get horny. And if you get in their kennel and you get down on all fours, or you just sit down or whatever, I'm telling you, if you have never had a bulldog try to fuck you when you're only 5 or 6 or 7 or 8, I don't suggest you try it now at your age. It might sound exciting, but it's not. These cages were made out of chain link fence, both the sides and the tops, these kennels. And sometimes we would have to crawl like spiders and hang from the tops of the kennels and yell from my grandpa to come out and say, "Help! Oh, let us out." So you got these 3 stupid kids hanging from the chain link fence at the top of these kennels. I mean, nobody would fucking believe it until they saw it. True stuff, man. So here's another little tidbit of the stories of our lives. And you guys knew this one because sometimes I would meet you halfway, but when when my mom and dad were going through the divorce and we had to move back out to the grandparents' house, which was 4 miles away from middle school. Oh boy, riding my Schwinn Stingray from my grandparents' house, 4 miles away from my junior high school. That's not something, that's not an enjoyable experience you have to do every morning and every afternoon, over and back. It's a funny thing. I've had a tough life, lots of violence. Growing up, violent stepdad, violent mom, and violence running through that neighborhood. I didn't always make it through that neighborhood to middle school every morning without, having some confrontation. And then high school, that was a lot of violence, San Bernardino gang stuff. So, just a part of life. So I wonder, I had never thought of this. I just recently wondered about this. My lack of zest and an anxious pursuit to excel in life. I mean, I've done okay, but I often wonder, and the depression that comes. Maybe I have PTSD, and I always have. I don't know, man, getting beaten up while you're a kid for the first 16, 18 years of your life until you get to college. Maybe that leaves you with something. I wouldn't want to claim that I had any kind of similar experiences to our veterans, but I think there's some residual effect from getting beat up all the time as a kid. I didn't always make it through that neighborhood. Sometimes those kids of a different color caught me. And it was funny because, most of the kids around my house, we were all friends. But if you get out in, like a mile out or whatever, they don't know you. Who's this white boy? Let's take his bike. So anyway, spirit and bones got broke, I think. Maybe some minor form of PTSD. But I've always wondered if guys like me can tell stories that people find interesting to those people who have had pussified lives, never had any violence, never had any financial concerns, never had a worry in the world. I think we can. Even you guys. You guys grew up in a pretty solid house, but you still had to deal with the gang violence on the way to school and back and during school. So, well, I'll give you this. I am drunk and lonely. And I can't find my penis. Oh, where did my penis go? It's gotten so small that nobody knows. All right. Shift. What do they call it in literature? They call it, I can't even remember right now. Anyway, transition a little bit here. You guys probably know that author, Studs Terkel. Terkel. So I've read all his books. Read Oh, fuck. Go back to sleep, moron. I've read all his books. And basically, he's a guy that goes out into the real world, travels around, and interviews normal, average Americans like us. You know, so basically, his line is, "What's your story?" And then you have the conversation. Well, funny thing is, I couldn't remember how to spell his last name. So I asked Alexa how to spell it. Ah, fuck. I just said the Alexa word. She's about to come on and annoy us for a few seconds here. But she told me Stud's Turtle. Turtle. I guess that's okay. It's a matter of pronunciation, and, the software isn't perfect. But anyway, he was that famous writer who interviewed the average man and elicited all those magical moments. I mean, if you haven't read his books of other people who have lived out moments like we have, big mistake. Big mistake. You have to read Stud's Turtle. And so I'll finish with this. For all that longing to have lived in cowboy times, and we could have been tough cowboys riding the horses on the ranges and, moving cattle around and whatever the hell cowboys do and all that stuff. Or even before then, it's wielding swords and taking down the enemy. Right. It turns out we did live in a different time. Probably the best time in history. But now, for these poor kids and for the past couple decades or whatever, most everything has been homogenized, dumbed down, and made plain vanilla. And the problem is, the way I see it, is we are getting so far removed temporally from that fantastic experiential real life that we led as lucky kids that people think our lives are fiction. You tell them a story and their response is, "No, I don't believe that." I guess that's okay. We're all fucked now anyway. we had a government that doesn't function, but that's a whole nother story. Another little tidbit. I'm not even going to tell that one, but it involves Dodge Chargers and swimming across Big Bear Lake and getting stoned and driving down fire roads. I'm not even going to tell that little story. So what do today's kids do? Yeah, they get all the same, sports we had and so on. But a lot of them, I mean, what's the obesity ratio amongst kids these days? No, it's obesity. It's not just, what's the one in the middle? It goes past fat, it goes into obesity. It's like 70-something% of our kids are obese. What do? They play online video games where you have basically, I guess you have a circle jerk and attempt to be the first to finish. I mean, can you imagine? They're sitting there, they're moving that handle around. It's kind of like holding on to a penis, and and then they finish. That's what they're doing. Well, we were going on camping trips and Jeep trips and drag race trips out to the orange groves. with Dad and the uncle racing the 55 Chevy. Kids now sit home and watch Netflix like I do. But you know what? It's okay for me to do that. I've already been out there and done all the other stuff. So, and I'm not trying to set an example. I'm actually trying to hide so nobody sees me doing nothing. And now, instead of howling at the moon from the mountaintop, we sure were the lucky ones. And we had Novocaine. You really want to be a cowboy? You got to go get, a root canal? No.